Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, worms. Welcome to episode 5 of the Moisture Farm. This evening, we will be going over a couple of topics, some fun stuff for everyone. We have a little correct the record that we are going to touch on. We're going to talk about artificial scarcity, and we're going to give a working definition and then go from there. Predatory game company practices, and how we feel about carbonite boosters. And yes, we will be talking about Games Workshop. So, correcting the record, last week in our inaugural episode, we were incorrect in 2 previous leaders and the Twilight expansion create tokens. So, Newt Gunray creates droid tokens and Captain Rex creates clone tokens. And basically, how do they compare to, what is it, Akbar and the new Vader from JTL?
They don't.
They don't.
Not at all.
And that's the end of the discussion. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay. I'm still a little sour.
I mean,
Why are you so sour, my dear?
tell us.
Oh, well, I just think it's incredibly unfair. I wanted a clone pumping machine. And then they're all like, here, have some spaceships. I'm like, okay, I guess.
So it's not necessarily that the leaders themselves are objectively better or worse than the previous edition. It's just not what you wanted.
Not just that, I do objectively believe that Akbar and Vader are more efficient in their token creation, and it's not as expensive.
So let's pull up Rex.
I mean, I just want to point out that Captain Rex, who is the same color as Vader, costs 2 to perform his action. 2. Vader's free for doing the same trigger. And yes, we can have a conversation of a clone trooper is a ground unit, a TIE fighter is a space unit, and we are talking about a 1-1 versus a 2-2. But 2 resources, essentially for 1-1, that's rough. That's really rough.
Well, I mean, it's 2 resources for a 2-2, which is basically in line with the general pricing convention, except it's not. Right?
It's,
like
really,
tokens
it's 2
are
resources
not
for
efficient.
1-1. It's 2 resources for 1-1 when you're comparing it to Vader. Because
Yes,
Vader's free,
fair.
and he's creating a 1-1. So, in comparison, you're paying 2 for +1/+1. No, thank you.
I mean, and then you've got like, pull up Bunker Defender as a real quick example. One, 2-1, if you have a vehicle sentinel. I mean, tokens are not resource efficient in this game in their current state. And that sucks. Because they're tokens. You would think they'd be cheap and free and easy, just like PJ.
Exactly.
And except you do have leaders that create them for essentially free, with just fulfilling
Yes.
a condition. So,
Yes. So internal balancing leaves a little bit desired. Is there more we want to touch on this, or do we want to move forward?
I
I
think
think-
we can move forward.
yep. I think
Okay.
we can move forward as well.
So, artificial scarcity. I am going to
Do we want to talk
define-
about the pre-release first? We all played in pre-release.
No, that's true. You're absolutely right. I am just all over the place. So yeah, everybody played in a sealed event this past week, and some of us had more success than others. We'll start on a low note. That would be me. Would certainly be me. I played at a place called Game Castle here in Sacramento. 26 participants, 5 total rounds. The last round was the top 8. I did not make it to the top 8. I lost my first 3 matches and then swept my second match. I changed decks too, which you're allowed to do in sealed. So I went from a wedge green just straight green or green and blue. No, wedge green and blue to a Rio yellow red. And the Rio deck was overall much better, just to the nature of sealed. I learned a lot. I'd never done a sealed event before. I was a little bit more anxious than I thought I would be, so that was interesting to note. Overall, I had a really good time, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing the next one too. But no, I was shit. I got my ass beat by everybody.
PJ, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I went to the JTL pre-release at Red Castle Games here in beautiful Portland, Oregon, and that was Friday. And I went in with very low expectations. I really just wanted to just touch the new stuff and see what other people were doing. I was actually more interested in other people's uh, decks and insights. It was very distracting building my deck because I kept looking to my left and my right just because so many interesting things were happening. Uh, Plus, there was a packed crowd. There was like 32 players, um, and I was there with a best friend. So it was overwhelming and awesome at the same time. From the jump, cracking my packs, it was very clear that my best option was going to be Vader yellow. My biggest stacks were in green, yellow, and villainy. And so I proceeded to put together a relatively even deck. I had an equal distribution of ground to space units, which for me I thought was good. The units I pulled, or the units I was able to put in the deck, were pretty impactful. Quasar TIE Carrier, to name one. Kamagala Heavy Fighter is an outstanding,
Great fucking shit.
a great turn to drop. Fantastic. I was a little underwhelmed with the TIE Vanguard being a 2/2 for 3, having the prerequisite for 2 damage on a damaged unit already. Now that's something you can achieve relatively easy in red. Red's going to get you those splash damages really quickly. But in the deck, it just didn't quite deliver as much as I wanted it to. Um, uh, let's see, any other notables that I thought was pretty outstanding. Dorsal turret was game breaking in a couple of cents. I was in a couple tight spots, but I was able to get rid of some large spaceships standing in the way of my angry Vader.
Dorsal turret is awesome.
Dorsal turret is awesome. Also, Angry Vader is a great punk rock band name. My MVPs, I felt, in my pre-release were Wingman Victor 2 and Wingman Victor 3. It was just pretty awesome. They cost 1 to pilot, and if you don't use them to pilot, they're a 2 for 3 2. Excuse me. Wingman 2 is a 2 for 3 2, and Wingman Victor 3 is a 3 for 4 3. Just these two units / pilots were outstanding in the game. I was tossing the occasional experience token when they're played as an upgrade. I'm sorry, I'm confusing my wingman. Wingman Victor 2 creates a TIE Fighter token when he is used as an upgrade, and Wingman Victor 3 creates an experience token. So it was just really cute, really cheap value, and it was cute when it happened. The coolest thing I did with this deck was I piloted a Quasar TIE Carrier with Vader. It was pretty fun slinging a 10-12 unit that creates babies on attack.
Nice.
Yeah, I went for that for the night. It was 4 rounds. 4 rounds, single elimination, and I went 3-1. And the deck that I lost to, I was not surprised to lose to, and that was Rose Tico. Rose Tico in Limited is a boss. She's a boss. Gotta give proper respect to that stun gun, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was hoping that I was going to pull a rose, and I did not. Otherwise, I would have tried to make it work, but no joy.
No joy. But yeah, I had a wonderful time. It was great touching new cards. Uh, I'm excited to get my boxes so that I can actually crack into building some decks because I got some ideas.
Nice. All right. I also ended up at Red Castle Games. They hosted 4 different sealed pre-release tournaments over the weekend. I was at the second one that they ran on Saturday because that is when my schedule worked out. So I was unable to attend with PJ. I ended up going 2-2 with a Boba Fett yellow. That is how my my cards ended out. I had huge stacks of red, huge stacks of yellow, and a whole bunch of indirect damage. And my entire deck was just built around let's pump as much indirect damage and make you make bad choices. I went 2-2 because I had some pretty bad draws on those 2 that I lost with a couple of the either too expensive or they just didn't do enough cards. I will say that my highlight for the night is against my opponent, and that was game 3, which is one that I did win. He dropped Scramble Fighters, which is a 7 resource green card that makes 8 TIE Fighter tokens, and they can't attack. I claimed the initiative, and I dropped War Juggernaut, which deals 1 damage to every unit on the opponent's board.
Oh no!
So I wiped his turn, and he just looked at me and like, I don't even know what to say, dude. I can't hate this. I can't hate this. It was so it was gorgeous. It was hilarious. So
Love
yeah,
it.
that was a ton of fun. There was no hard feelings. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, was really impressed with how Boba Fett did. There was one card that name just abandons me at the moment. It's a red fighter that increases all non-combat damage or all non-indirect damage by 1. So even my puny little stormtrooper that does 1 indirect damage did 2, and then Boba Fett makes it. Yep, hunting aggressor. So my little 1 resource dude. Yep, my little 1 resource dude was pumping out 6 damage between the 2 from him, the 2 from his indirect, and then the 2 from Boba Fett.
That's incredible.
It was silly. Like, yep, that was a really good sealed card. Do I know if it's going to be any good and going forward? I don't know, but it was a lot of fun.
I mean, it's a 4/3/6, and indirect damage you deal to opponents is increased by 1. I think if you're playing an indirect damage card, it's a must take.
It's a red card with 6 health. 6 health on a red card. For 4. That it was super hard to remove. That is the big thing, other than its ability, which is like you'd be happy not to attack with it ever. But it was super hard to remove. People couldn't kill it, and they just extra pings, at least 2 damage from that card a turn, at least extra. So, alrighty. Now that we've gone with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Robert, and he can go back into that predatory game practices. We have an agenda, sir. Stick with the agenda.
In my favor, it's not on the thing.
It is. It is. I fixed it before we went live.
I hope you get shark herpes.
Again,
predatory game practices or artificial scarcity. We'll start with artificial scarcity. Working definition: intentionally creating limited product, knowing that it will sell out and your customer base will not be met. Does that make sense?
For today, that makes sense. I'm not the audience.
PJ, you hear me?
yeah, I guess I have I guess something's pinging off of that doesn't sound. That doesn't
I'll
sound.
give the example. I'll give the example.
Mhm.
Games Workshop has stated that their mission is to sell out every single release they make going forward, and they made that announcement in like 23. And so what they do is they don't make enough product to meet the demand they know they're going to have.
Okay, I understand.
So they are deliberately hyping the market. They're doing FOMO. And they intentionally make enough product to not meet their customer demand. And then they have this weird allocation system that can really screw an FLGS. Their pre-ordering on their website is terrible. And often things sell out in 5 minutes worldwide, and you find them on eBay 2 minutes later for like 2.5 times the cost. That's what I mean.
Okay.
They deliberately create an atmosphere of FOMO around their games and their product. And let's just be clear, Games Workshop products are all overpriced. Every single fucking Games Workshop product is overpriced, from their paint to their minis, everything. And understanding their pricing scheme on their minis is impossible, because we would have to see their internal marketing documents to understand what the fuck they were doing. And so how does this tie into Star Wars? Great question. It ties in a little bit because carbonite boosters. Carbonite boosters are very much a FOMO thing, right? Like, here, I have 3 different versions of Black One. They're all mechanically the same. They do the exact same thing. There is no difference between the cards. Some of them look much, much prettier than others. And the only way to get the prestige edition of the cards, as far as I know, is in the carbonite boosters. The carbonite boosters are roughly 3 times as expensive as a regular booster, with fewer packs in the box and fewer cards in the pack.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna break in here. I'm okay with it with the carbonite boosters.
Okay.
I'm okay with it because it is mechanically the same thing to run a prestige, a foil prestige, as it is to run the dollar rare that I get out of a pack, which I pulled 2 at pre-release, FML. If it was mechanically different and you had to have that prestige to have +1 health or
Mm-hmm.
+2 health, or if it was mechanically different, I would not be okay with it, because at that point you are running you're running a scam to try and get people to buy this more expensive product.
It then turns into a pay-to-win situation.
It does become pay to win, which is much more similar to, well, as you were stating with Games Workshop. If you want us to play with your models, we have to buy those models, and you don't provide those models, then I can't play this thing. Like, I have to pay a scalper if I want these new models and I want to run this army. I ran into that. That's what actually started this conversation. I wanted the new army box. Wasn't able to buy it day one. I was on there. I was refreshing. In the first minute, it was gone from resellers, from known resellers, not scalpers, as well as GW's own website. Less than a minute, sold out.
What are your thoughts, Mr. PJ?
Oh man, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm thinking about Magic the Gathering and their recent advertisements and pre-sale for Final Fantasy IP. I don't know about you guys, but I've played every Final Fantasy game to date. And I was really excited about that, and I went to pre-order a couple things, and they were sold out within hours of the pre-sale going up on Amazon, before even the brick and mortar stores got access to allotment. And that for me, that was an immediate, like, I'm done. I'm done with this IP. I'm done with WotC in this to this degree. And then it made me think about how carbonite boosters compare to, say, collector's boosters in Magic, because it's roughly the same thing. But I want to double back to and bring emphasis on the point that you were making, Tangent, that the release of the carbonite boosters is relatively benign as far as negative impact, because there's no exclusivity divide because of the power of the cards, right? It's not creating a game imbalance.
It's just FOMO.
It's just FOMO, which, we are freedom loving patriots.
Shiny loving goblins.
Yeah, goblin
Let's get
patriots.
this one
And if
right.
people want to spend their money on expensive cardboard, that's their business. A healthy secondary market is good for games.
Yes, it is.
There are pros and cons. The increase in demand means higher sales, and higher sales means they can invest more. Maybe they can invest into better art.
That's next week. We are going there next week. Holy-
Maybe they can take some of that new budget that they got, that SWU money, and put it towards some constructive development. Because so far we're loving the game.
All the ships look great.
The ships look great.
The
As far as
ships
negative
are
impacts,
gorgeous.
there's limited availability, and that sometimes pressures players to spend more money than they should. So again, it feeds into that positive feedback loop of addiction and FOMO. And my feelers are always out for snakes. And what I mean by that is I'm always on the lookout for elitist players. And this game seems to have none, at least locally. I don't see that. I don't sense that. So I don't know if they've thought about this problem, if they thought about what manufacturer scarcity means and how it might be perceived in the public forums. But it seems like in their release and in the design of their game, like everything has been transparent and clear, and their intentions seem to be genuine as a company compared to, say, Games Workshop. And
Fucking WotC or Hasbro.
right,
Mhm.
exactly. So if we're making apples to apples comparisons, the only comparison is that there's shinier cards that don't mechanically change the game in any way that some people want to spend their money on.
I will throw in a professional caution or professional note, which is, and I don't have research in front of me to pull it up, blah 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 blah. If I had to guess, gamers, nerds, etc., per capita are overrepresented by neurodivergent type of people. And as a general rule, neurodivergent type of people are much more susceptible to psychological marketing involving FOMO and loot box type enterprises. And I'm not saying, to be clear, I'm not saying that carbonite boosters are a loot box type of thing. If anything, carbonite boosters are less of a loot box than just regular booster packs, because you're guaranteed more rarity out of a carbonite booster. But the FOMO thing, certain segments of the population are more susceptible to impulse control issues in that area. No, a company is not responsible for what people do with their money, et cetera, et cetera. But unduly influencing people is also not cool. And I'll
Right.
drop it at that.
It is. I hear what you're saying, and it technically market manipulation, and on the back end, there's inflation in the secondary market, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I wanted to make one more comparison, and then I'll drop it. I don't know if you've heard the most recent stories or seen videos of people storming Costco's for Pokemon cards.
Yeah, they're just like emptying out the pallet into their one cart and running off, and then and then they're like a local store and they're just reselling it to teenagers at a ridiculous price. Yeah, I've seen that shit.
Precisely. So like the scalper is just one part of that problem. The other part of that problem, in my opinion, is the the developers and whoever's in control of the IP, the owners of Pokemon. They know that's happening. They know that's taking place, and that is a form of, in my view, predatory gaming practices, or at least predatory marketing strategy, to send a limited run of a print run of cards to a brick and mortar store like Costco, which has usually been like one of the most family friendly places to shop ever. And then you invite in a bunch of scalper nerds, right? And people, like, there was property damage, there was assault, a lot of nasty shit came about because of that. And as a company, I hope they're addressing that.
Where would you say the onus is for Costco? Because I'd like to throw out a couple comparisons here. When I was buying baby formula a year and a half ago, Costco was limiting how much baby formula I could buy. During COVID, they limited toilet paper and paper towels. Mm-hmm. They could have very easily been like, hey, we know this is a high demand product. One case, one brick per customer. I mean, if you're going to limit me on baby fucking formula, but you're going to let these people do this with Pokemon cards, it feels like there's a little strange.
Gonna really say that I highly doubt that the people at Costco really appreciated what they had. When you're talking about whoever's making the decisions at Costco, they're likely not going to be gamers. They're likely not going to have the appreciation for just how in demand this thing is going to be, especially if they're giving that discount. And they wouldn't have thought ahead on that. The people that actually make those decisions never even cross their mind, because they're like, okay, little pieces of cardboard. Nobody wants that. They'll come and they'll buy a couple, whatever. No, this is a problem.
I think that's an excellent point. Like, if we're being fair to Costco, they didn't know any better.
Should they have? Yeah. Did they? No. And I can't blame them for not knowing any better, because I can't foresee a world where the pencil pushers and the executives at Costco that made those decisions would have understood what they had.
Okay, fair enough. I had not considered that point.
So, go ahead.
There's another point I wanted to make, which is kind of a segue, but I feel like it's related. And if I'm off topic, you two let me know. Going back to Wizard of the Coast. Wizard of the Coast also runs D&D, for those who don't know. The Dungeons and the Dragons, which is owned by Hasbro, the parent company. In my point of view, they've done some wacky, shady shit. Their open game license stuff like 3-4 years ago, and then they saw that they were about to lose their entire market base because there were like 4 or 5 other companies ready to step up and just be like, y'all can touch our game for free.
Straight up.
Stealth editing of digital documents that you hypothetically own and pay for on their website, but because it's digital, you don't actually own it. You just rent it in perpetuity until they decide you can't have it no more. The same way anything you buy off of Amazon digitally. That stuff is, our universe is moving in a way where the fact that I can own this thing is super important. The fact that this piece of plastic, cardboard, is in my physical possession is super important, because if you think about a lot of the things you buy anymore and you consume digitally, you don't actually own it. You're just renting it. And that's bad for all consumers. It's bad for all consumers.
It's expensive. right? Because if let's say you're paying $20 for a movie, which I've done, because I have an or I have a Microsoft account, excuse me, a Microsoft account, Xbox Live, and I have movies on there for a long time. Well, through COVID, it was just I would look for bundles, and I would buy bundles and watch movies, and then for the same reasons you pointed out, like it became apparent to me that I this is really expensive now. It's not just a subscription. I've spent hundreds of dollars on something that isn't mine.
Yep.
I mean, I guess I can look at any other product like that, you know, like a utility service, the internet, or even a bad habit, like going out for expensive coffee or something like that. At least you have a cup of coffee.
I would like to point out, and this is Robert going a bit extreme, you don't own your house. Even if you have paid off your mortgage, you don't own your house, because what happens if you don't pay property taxes? Eventually, men with guns will come to get you. You don't own anything. No one owns anything in this country. And I think that this subscription service models and digital media is becoming rapidly problematic. For instance, last month, just a couple weeks ago, Amazon isn't letting you download and transfer books to your computer via USB device. So they're just making it that much harder for you to keep a local copy of your stuff. Because if your Kindle is connected to the internet, Amazon can update your books whenever they want, which means that they can edit it, they can remove it.
I hate that.
No, it's predatory market practices, right? Like we've
turned into that, yeah. Yep. Well, here's a question, and not that I require an answer. How do you think, or what can you imagine the market doing to ameliorate this problem?
I mean, the answer is already there. As a society, we decided we didn't want it. The answer, how do I not have a fucking, hold on.
The answer really is a society answer. We are addicted to the convenience of things. We
the
need
answer is you buy the fucking thing.
Buy the physical item. Yep.
But this thing is 2 years old and it's worthless. They're not using these rules anymore. This is nothing. This is fucking worthless. Comic books are perhaps a little different, right? Like I love reading things, and I love the physical expression of reading things. I like taking a paperback and thumbing through the pages and smelling that parchment. I fucking love it. Especially an old book. Dear God. It's got so fucking inconvenient. I've had to move so much in my life and pack up so many I ended up getting rid of all my books because I moved cross country like 3 times in 2 years. It's just too much.
I was there at the end of one of those.
I know you were, brother. Right?
I agree. I love the feel. I love the smell. But you know what? This thing has hundreds of books on it.
Hundreds.
And I can put this in my pocket. And I hate the fact that it is more convenient. I hate the fact that it's got a light on it. I can read it in bed with all the lights off if I've got insomnia. It is convenient, and that is what we are paying for and what we've moved toward as a society. And in order to move towards that as a society, you can't own anything. So we as a society have made that choice.
So I have a couple questions. Which is better for you? The physical book that eventually will just be dust, or
sure,
the digital notebook?
I mean, it depends on how we define better, blah 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 blah.
Which is better for human health and human thriving?
Objectively, I have a master's degree in social work. I work in community mental health, blah 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 blah. for folks wondering, what the fuck does this idiot know? That's what I know. I don't know much, but I know a little bit. Humans are designed for analog experiences. Hands down, 100%. The research and the literature on teen mental health and social media is very, very convincing. It's very, very clear. It's fucking horrible. It's horrible. So what's better for humanity? Books. Sitting in rooms with other people reading books is infinitely better for your mind and your body than reading your Kindle in bed. But there are so many other factors to consider, right? Like the price of housing factors into this. You're like, what the fuck? The price? Yeah, the price of housing. Because if you can't afford a place to put all your fucking books.
The library.
I used to have a library.
Well, okay, so this brings me to my second question, but first I'll make a point. That means you have to be that much more judicious about what is valuable. Like, which books do you keep?
Yes, and so this would be a plug for your local library. Go sign up for your local library. You can also check out books electronically at your local library, and CDs and movies. Go see your local library, people. And so, yes, but the fact that we have to make that choice is sub-awesome.
Oh, I don't disagree. But I guess
now
the point I'm leaning into, sorry, tangent. The point I'm leaning into is that I'm talking about the value of the book compared to the value of the Kindle. And so the relative cost of what makes that valuable. So I'm trying to not say the word soul, right?
Go for it, brother.
Like you're sacrificing something deep to have the convenience.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what I'm leaning into.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you are 100% sacrificing the soul, and I will say it. You're sacrificing the experience. There's nothing more satisfying than sitting with a hefty hardback book in your hands and reading that book and smelling that book. When it was just released, or you find an old book that is out of print and you found it at a used bookstore, and the smell of used bookstores. Mm-hmm. PJ and I live in the Portland area. We have one of the best used bookstores in the world. I'm going to say in the world, in Powell's. It's world renowned. The smell of books is visceral.
And I will quote, I think it's Ben Shapiro, and at the risk of alienating our audience of nobody, I think he said once that America has a God-shaped hole in its heart. And I agree with that to the extent of our society has replaced spirituality and religion with technology, and it is the poorest substitute imaginable. I'm not saying believe in God. I'm not saying believe in a higher power. I'm saying touch grass, motherfucker.
Yep.
Go outside and experience the universe you live in.
And I'm saying maybe everybody who's in charge should eat mushrooms at least once a year. Like if you're in office, you should have to take a heroic dose once a year.
Heroic dose.
How do you know that they're not? And then going onto the floor and doing stupid shit?
Because I subjectively believe that if more people in high levels of leadership ate mushrooms, they would experience true love, and they would uncover parts of themselves and heal parts of themselves that are overdue.
All right, I'm going to bring us back onto subject a little bit. We are supposed to be a gaming podcast and not a social commentary podcast.
We went some places.
Are good for your soul.
Well, hold on. I'll bring this back to books. That's one of the reasons I love playing card games. I love the smell of cards, and I love how they feel in my hands. It's the best. It's the best. And there's something therapeutic for me sorting a collection of cards. I bitch about it, but I kind of love it.
Shuffling a deck of sleeved cards. I forgot a long time ago. My hands forgot how to shuffle cards that aren't sleeved a long time ago. But if they're sleeved, just that feel, that visceral feel of the back and forth of shuffling that deck, nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Question.
Yo.
So, just so I don't lose the question mostly. Do we agree that Star Wars Unlimited does not fall under the umbrella of predatory gaming schemes?
I agree that it does not.
I agree that it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that there are lots of examples that we could look at.
As
Going back
of
to
3/12/25, it does not. Let's clarify that. As of the recording of this episode, it does not.
3/12/25. We're not finding anything that leaps out to us. I haven't played Magic in 20 years, with the exception of when their Warhammer 40K commander sets came out. I bought one of each. You can't find them anymore for any reasonable price. And that, like, I know that there is an argument, and I respect the argument of it's bad for everyone involved, consumers, stores, the environment, manufacturers, to have unused products sitting on shelves for more than 6 months. Or I hear that. I am on board with that. I agree with that. But if only 66% of your player base gets the opportunity to buy a product that they wanted to buy, and then they have to turn to the secondary market, the company's not making any extra money here. There's no profit there.
They're also not losing money. That's the key there. They're not losing money by storing it, by printing extra, and them not selling it. That's where the argument really takes over for doing these kind of practices.
And so I get that, and I've never lived anywhere but here being the United States. But I think that there's a better way, and I feel like there has to be some places in the world that do it better, right? That takes into account that the customer is also a stakeholder in the relationship in the business.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would also point out, games are great, mind, body, and soul. Humans are social creatures. Humans are meant to play games. Humans are meant to compete. You're meant to win. You're meant to lose, and you're meant to understand and live through the struggle of both.
Yes, you are. And games will do that, whether they're co-op, whether they're versus, whether they're party games, or whether they're the hardcore, try-hard, Timmy, Johnny, Spike games. They will all do that.
Dark Souls, anyone?
Dark Souls.
Board game of Dark Souls. Dark Souls, the board game, but not the board game. Kingdom Death. It'll be harder than any Dark Souls run you've ever been on.
I asked my kids if they know the difference between the objective of a game and the purpose of a game. And my youngest is just now learning this, and he's doing well. But my oldest 100% understands that the objective of the game is to win, but the purpose of the game is to be invited back to the game.
If I win and no one ever wants to play with me again, I rapidly run out of people to play with.
That's precisely it.
Don't break your toys. If you break your toys, they won't want to play with you anymore. That's an old SCA
all of
adage.
Your opponents, your toys.
That's an old SCA adage from fighting, from heavy fighting and fencing. If you break your toys, they won't want to play with you anymore. So don't break your toys mentally with board games.
It applies to CNC as well. So just throwing that out there.
All right, where are we at on topics?
I think I think we have exhausted the topics, my darlings.
Okay.
I think so. We kind of sped through our planned topics and then got off topic real fast. Do we want to talk about the secondary market on like and how we kind of touched on it, but a
Oh yeah,
strong,
I have
thriving
a question
secondary
about that.
market is
I have a question
good.
about that.
Yeah.
And so I asked because I truly don't know why is a thriving slash healthy secondary market good for the primary publisher of a game?
It shows that people want to play your game. And when we're talking about secondary market, we're talking about like single sales. We're not talking about scalpers. We're not talking about people buying packs and reselling packs. We're talking about trading. We're talking about selling singles on eBay. It means that people are interested in playing your game and want to engage with it on a deeper level. The
Which
fact that
might,
people. Go ahead, PJ.
sorry, that was just a quick interjection, which
Mm-hmm.
might open opportunities for investment in other places or from other places, like other companies, right?
Yeah.
So if FFG is crushing it with this IP, and there's all an enormous amount of attention coming to it because of the success of Carbonite boosters and the general success of the game, then that might inspire more external investment.
It might it will draw people in, and let's be clear, there's really nothing directly in it for FFG to have Bob selling singles on eBay. It does not benefit directly. They're not making any money off of it. They're getting that word of mouth, that sales. They're getting a gauge on how many people are really engaging with their system. They also get that kind of information through things like people's Melee accounts. If the FLGs are using Melee, they're getting that information by just their sales. But really, like, you can have a friendly local game store buy a case of boosters, and then maybe it sits on their shelf. Maybe it sits on their shelf for 3 years. They don't know at that point, but they can really see that eBay has those sales. If you don't think that there's somebody at FFG that regularly checks eBay for how many listings, and maybe they're not digging into how many copies of Ben Kenobi are being sold, but they're looking at how many listings are active over a certain amount of time in the last month or whatever for Star Wars Unlimited, they're looking. They have their eye out.
Right. They have to know what the market is predicting.
Yeah.
And that is then a barometer then for active public interest between sets, old sets, what cards are, like if they decide to deep dive on the data, like what is still in demand, what keeps getting traded, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and they get enormous value out of podcasting too. Not this podcast, but just from other people's content, talking about and expressing their love for the game.
It's free advertisement for them.
That's why they send out creator packs, right? That's why all those videos are on YouTube of podcasters and streamers and YouTubers who are like, hey, they sent me this early. Look at this cool pack they sent me, because it's a way to drum up hype. And that's fine. As a company, your goal is to make a product that people want to buy. And that is pretty cheap advertising, because like, I don't know for sure, but I would have to guess that the margin on making these things is pretty good. I'd guess the margin on making these things is pretty good.
Yep. And the return on investment for sending out those creator packs, like, we're talking about probably less than $50 their cost, including shipping some of these big boxes. Yep. Less than $50 a creator, and they're probably sending a couple dozen. And how many thousands of dollars are they making now? Whether they needed to or not to already have all those pre-sales, probably not. That's the whole purpose of doing spoiler season. But it helps drum up that hype. It helps drive people to the stores. It keeps the ball rolling, as opposed to, well, spoiler season's done. Now there's nothing between actual release and the last spoiler. So that helps bridge that gap.
Not that I've played every card game that is popular today. There's quite a few I haven't, actually. but I don't know. I I try like I take demos of some games and like Digimon and One Piece, things like that. And now there's a Gundam card game coming out. I just mechanically, I just think the Star Wars Unlimited mechanics are just really well balanced.
They're solid. They're
And
really solid.
it reminds me of Versus. Did you ever play Versus?
I did. Way, way
Versus.
back in the day.
Dude, the templating for Versus was stunning. The 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 linear resource progression was perfect. The rank structure was brilliant. I just there were so many nice things to say about the game, not just functionally, but how it looked. And then on top of that, it was Marvel, right? We all love Marvel. Um,
Absolutely.
and they
Hmm.
did such a good job until they stopped doing a good job. And I haven't felt anything like that since Versus or Warlord. And this game is just ringing all the bells for me right now.
Um, like I think I said in our first one, I picked up this. I you were talking to me about the game. I bought some starter packs. I played with Chris, and I was just like, oh, oh, yeah. I think my favorite. I have two favorite things. The first one is something I love to hate, and that's the resource system, which
Mm.
probably means that it's doing a good job. Like I love to hate the fact that I draw my first deck and I'm like, oh fuck,
What
what
do
am
I
I
do?
giving up? What do I give up here? Right? And the fact that that's the question, what do I give up? I think is solid. And then the alternating activation, you get to do one thing on your turn, and then your opponent gets a chance to play. I dig it. It's good shit.
Yep, the resource and that puzzle is what I really draw to. There's no lands, there's no energies, there's no easy choices. That's the game right there, is that resource management. What you do once cards hit the table. Yeah, there's decisions to be made there, but the real interesting decision that I like watching is that resource.
How many times have you resourced something and then that turn or the next turn you're like, motherfucker, I shouldn't have done that. I need that card now. And it's too
Yep.
bad, so sad. None for you.
Yep. You're like,
Straight
I've
up.
got this flex card and I don't think I'm going to need to flex into it, so I'm going to resource it. And next turn, you're like, damn it, I needed that perilous position. I needed that perilous position so bad.
I need that Fell the Dragon. I need that exhaust card. I need that whatever.
Yeah.
Because someone just pulled some janky shit with Django.
Yeah.
Yeah. Django,
It's
Django
those
something.
tech cards that they're so easy to throw away. Like, I'm not going to need to tech this, but oh, wait, I did need to tech it. Maybe I should have resourced my big guy that I wanted to drop in 2 turns.
If I
But
may
No.
go for it.
express some masochism,
We have
I'm
no
here for
surprise
it,
there.
baby.
I I relish this progression of feelings and thought in game. It works something like this. I put something incredible in play, or I pilot something, I turn something into a 9 something awesome. With overwhelming, I'm gonna kill everything. And then somebody plays one card and it's gone. Or
Dead.
or it's exhausted. Or it's frozen in carbonite. And I'm just like,
You.
it's this peak high of, man, I got the answer. This is the most epic Voltron. Oh, and then it's gone.
As a player,
And that happens so much as a
there
player.
there is nothing I like more. And this happened a couple times at my sealed event, is someone dropped out a ship and I'm like, okay, and I'm watching it, or I pass. And then they stick a pilot on it, and now it's my turn. Oh, barrel roll. Barrel roll.
So talking about game design a second, and with what PJ said on those like high, and then that dip. I watch a game designer for a video game that I really thoroughly enjoy, and he talks shop when he streams, and it's incredibly fascinating. But when you're talking about game design, is you want those peaks as much as you want those lows. You get all this shit in the middle, doesn't matter. Because people are going to talk about this thing, and they're going to talk about this thing. And that's what matters. That's what's going to keep people coming back. And you're going to see that ship with that big old pilot on it that didn't get to attack, that they were just waiting an extra turn, hoping you didn't have that sit down and make you, oh no, oh no. Or you're going to have that war juggernaut that just wipes the board, and your entire last turn just went away. Might as well not have taken a turn 7. Yeah,
Right?
it's
Like,
those moments.
Everything I did doesn't matter anymore.
Those hype moments. Yep, that's what games are live and die on, is those hype moments.
I talk shit to my computer screen when I'm playing online. You know, it gets personal because it's like Admiral Piet, and so I'm like, oh Piet, you're such a bad man. I hate you so much. Why are you such a jerk? You know,
Because Imperials, we're all very bad
because
men.
Imperials, yeah. Or if I'm losing to Han, I'm just like, damn you, Han, you're so arrogant. I just wish you would fly your Millennium Falcon into a sun.
So you're really anthropomorphizing isn't the right word here because they're fictional characters, right? But you're really projecting your emotions onto these pieces of digital cardboard.
It's okay, hear me out, Mr. Psychology guy.
Bring it.
Yeah, well, for me, it's therapeutic because instead of being upset with the disappointment because the lows happen,
Blows happen.
it's I associate the disappointment to like the character that the game is predicated on. It's like cool. If I know anything about them, I'll just start thinking about them and then I'll make fun of them, even if I know I'm losing. Like Poe Dameron, right? Can we just talk about how much of a pussy hound that dude is? He is so damn hot. You know, and so if I'm losing to Poe, and I often am, I'm like, you son of a bitch. How dare you?
And it's
For the
healthy.
rest of us, you can't do all that and kick my ass. It's not fair.
Yeah, you can't be that hot and be this good in a fight.
And it's healthy to trash talk. It's healthy to engage. But I really believe that it's healthier to trash talk the characters and the things that are out of our control rather than trash talking the player. Now the
Oh, of
three of us
course.
are going to trash talk each other because like we've known each other forever and evers and evers. But for a newer player, I'm not
I
going to
hate
trash
you.
talk them. Like I'm going to trash talk Poe. I'm going to trash talk Akbar. It doesn't matter the character that's there. I'm not going to trash talk Timmy that's sitting across the table from me. Like
What
Oh,
if Timmy
man.
deserves it?
if I don't know Timmy doesn't deserve it unless he's being a jerk face. At which point, yeah. But that's a decision that Timmy made.
Such a Timmy made.
Timmy made the decision to be a jerk. Just like PJ makes decisions to play Morgan. It's okay.
Oh,
It's
you
okay.
son of a bitch.
And now
I
we've
like
lost
value.
Robert looking at cards.
I like
I
value.
literally am. That's what I'm doing. I'm just shuffling through as I listen to you mofos.
So
Just
have
playing on my paper.
do we want to bring this to a close?
Yep, we're
we-
right about that time.
We're right at an hour, like almost literally, and then we can keep talking or we can call it a night. I mean, it's 9:20.
Well, we should wrap the regular episode up and then we can start talking about the shit talk. And we should make sure that either this gets cut or we can, like, do this better in the future. Because making people listen to us finagle on if we're done or not.
Final note. SWU is a superior card game.
Agreed.
And I love it. I love this community. Everyone is amazing. And I love you, fuck faces.
I love you fuck faces too.
I love your faces of fuck. And this is a great game.
And Blue Leader is a fun card.
Yep.
It's Rebel Scum.
Oh,
I'm
this
just gonna shoot
episode
it out
is
of the
brought
sky.
to you by Blue Leader.
By Blue Leader.
Don't die.